candidate country. So this is an illustration how changed, how much Macedonia changed in negative way in recent years. I don't know if IPA funds are the best way to finance. Of course there are ways to finance, and I also believe that the media in neighboring states who are covering the territory of Macedonia can do a great role, assisting you in spreading the alternatives and the other more complementary information of what is all about. But I agree that the money is needed for some activities, because those who don't pay taxation, they are cut off, like it was happening in some media. I'm not talking about the criminal, I'm talking about the rules of law. And of course, the way how to provide money is very important. They need to be legitimate and transparent. So, I don't want to continue, but I suggest you, if you have an excellent project, please approach to our colleagues or to somebody else, and we will find a way to advise who might do it on a legitimate way.
Благодаря, говорите? Добре. Господин Накич, па господин Дежекович. Повелете.
The time is running out, so I'll be very brief. The fact is that negotiating is a process. Accession negotiation is a two-way business actually, and for a successful story we need both sides, country candidate and of course respective EU institutions. Looking Macedonia, I think Macedonia is the best example of how progress is relative. We know that Macedonia accomplished all criteria for NATO membership and didn't get invitation, and we know why. Of course, bilateral issues, it's certainly not a key communautaire for EU membership. So I think the problem is how to aware all these countries in the region to accomplish all these criteria, when after that they have no guarantees that they're going to be invited in NATO or EU. I think on the other side we have on EU side actually some kind of a skepticism that the Balkans country approaching too fast and unprepared for EU membership. And the question is how to balance premature enlargement with all what we expected to be in a future member of EU. I think EU could do two things. The first one is just to continue current practice, just to be a passive monitoring of regional countries and do almost nothing, even without some interventions when it's necessary, having in mind all these reforms. And second, I think EU can just redefine its policy approach in a way to reinforce influence through programmed approach to each single country, what we have in NATO's PFP framework that we call individual partnership programs. So for each single country, do some program and just try to follow on a daily basis how they fulfill all these criteria.
Благодаря. Господин Блажекович, повелете.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed this conference, and me and everybody else, as I can see, we are ready to share our experience with you, Macedonians, and the others. But if you ask me, as I am an old man with some experience, if you don't find strength in yourself, you will not solve the problem. You are the key point to solve the problems. You have to help yourself. We are ready to help you. We are ready to share our experience with you. But you need to find strength in the Macedonian to solve all problems. Problems with Greece, problems with European Union. Nobody else can solve problems for you. Thank you.
Благодарам. Уште имаме пријавен од гостите, повелете.
Good afternoon to all. My name is Edmond Ademi. I'm Executive Director of the Liberta Institute Center for Political and Economic Research. Mr. Farla quoted Shakespeare. I will quote the great philosopher Schopenhauer, who says that the man is the only being who makes an event from his death. Basically, the last 6 years, since we got the candidate status in 2005, we are in the state of mind of celebrating deaths. Celebrating the past, celebrating the antique, celebrating the history, celebrating I don't know what. So, for 6 years since the candidate status, we haven't moved forward at all. And to be honest, I'm not expecting that this government will do anything more on this direction to deblock the Euro-Atlantic process of integration. The question is, I was yesterday in Greece, for example, and I saw a lot of Macedonians there who contributing to the Greek economy, you know, helping in a way by, you know, which is good. And which is okay, including myself, I contributed a bit. But the question is, if we can cooperate or exchange on those small things, even going to, I don't know where, IKEA, buying tables or whatever, why? The question is, this government, the politicians are basically, at least this garniture, is not on the level of, let's say, cooperating and discussing issues. If we see the history, it's a bit of strange political history when we see the changes in the government. Let's say at the time, at least what if it's about the trust, WikiLeaks. At the time when was let's say Simitis Prime Minister of Greece, and which is on the left, and then we had on the right Lubchuk Georgievsky. They were even closer, very close to close the issue, and then came the conflict and change. Then later on we had Karamanlis from the right, and then Tsarenkovsky on the left, and which when we get basically the candidate status, and then we came both right-wing parties on power in both states, and here where the clash came out. If vis-a-vis Slovenia, if we, Mr. Kacin here, the same situation, although they solved it at the end of the day, with Croatia, we had Račan and we had Janša, both from two different camps, and later on we have Pahor and we have Kosor also coming. But they came up to a solution, which means that the political ideologies is not the problem here. The problem is something more. When it comes to someone said, sorry, I don't remember. It's the question. The problem is within our minds. If we can go both, or we're going to stick within our concept of being, in the terms of celebrating, you know, the history and the ending. I want to put a dilemma, basically a question. Since there was an idea, and which I think is a good idea, and I think Europe should consider probably more in-depth this idea, is the idea of the next president of the European Parliament, Mr. Martin Schulz, who asked, in case of Greece and Macedonia, more involvement of Greece, of EU in those. So, without leaving, being this process part of UN looks like there is no end. There is no end, and I'm afraid that it will not be an end for long time. And we're going to be a black hole as we are now, because we see now Croatia will, in a year and a half, will be full member. Montenegro, if I'm not, they got already candidate status. Probably Serbia will get it now in December, although without starting talks or something. So we're for 6 years, you know, jumping on the same. So I think the idea of Mr. Schulz, it's a good one, that EU should take more responsibility, or let's say not responsibility, but maybe an action on pushing things forward. Not only for this case. You said that there is Bosnia, there is Kosovo coming up. Always going to be something. And if EU doesn't have a really, let's say, a more impact politics doing, rather than staying aside in a way, saying, look, you guys, you must solve this if you want to be part of the club, which is, as a philosophy, okay, having in mind the previous experience. But how long this can go? And the second issue is, or the second dilemma is, I know that we in the Balkans also usually we solve the situation with the stick and the carrot. But the question is, can, although it's a pretty radical position, organize a kind of conference, whatever you call it, forum between Greece and Macedonia, which will involve EU, UN, and possibly, probably, United States. Type of Rambuyev, although the context is different. But to push things forward. That's because, as recently the US ambassador stated here, saying that you don't solve those kind of problems with public statements. You solve it differently. More different way of which some of you are diplomats here and understand what that's supposed to mean. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for your statement. The EU should act. I think that we all agree, but there is an institutional problem there, and it is that the common foreign and security policy is made by unanimity, and you need Athens to do anything beyond the European borders. So I do think that it would be wise if the European Union should take the responsibility, but well, unfortunately there is this big institutional problem. The EU is composed of 27 member states. I'd like to say something about what you said, for the lady from the NGO. I very much liked what you said, and I think that what we liberals should do is we should speak out loud. I mean, in the Netherlands we also, and you see it throughout Europe, we have a very influential